I'm not gonna zoom in, I'm just using my computer for
Okay.
the agenda and stuff.
Well, let me zoom
Oh, has it been broadcasting?
yeah, but not with volume or
Oh,
video.
okay.
It is now. I'm not able to zoom in the camera, so. That's just as good as it's been getting.
Do you know the history of the Ohana conduit? I mean, the original intention was it for, Esplanade?
No,
Oh,
so
okay.
basically, this is what we call it now, or we'll call it when it had fiber optic cables in it.
Yeah,
And Ohana was the name that was given to it when it was put in as the first piece in what would have been a large network of all, most of the observatories together.
oh, and that's what those people were saying recently with Ohana too. But in that case,
Never got to that point. That's why it's a 10-inch condo with only two little tiny fibers in it. There was a lot more.
but why is it being removed if this new group is talking about Ohana too? Or, you know, a next generation interferometry.
That's a little over my pay grade.
Oh.
But I don't believe a physical connection is necessary anymore.
Hmm. Okay.
But I don't mean to interrupt. I might be a hero. Hey, Greg. Hi, Greg. And
Enjoy. Yes.
Oh, Mike, you never met Joy?
no,
Oh, okay. So she, among other things, handles all of the permitting
Mhm.
and stuff, so the project proposals and
help.
everything.
but you have all the headaches, screening stuff.
No, I have the most exciting job, despite,
We're lucky she views her job as super exciting.
Well, it is.
It is.
It is.
Doing it for
Very critical.
I tried to promote Julie to panelist, but she denied it, so. I'll try.
Try again.
I'll try again. Maybe it was an accident.
I'm sitting over here because I'm
There we
coming down
go.
with the cold.
She did it.
Okay.
and Greg, did you want me to present these?
Yeah, please.
And so IRTF and CFHC, they would just answer any questions.
Yeah.
Try to.
So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take a few things out of order. I'm gonna ask Roberta if we can take a few things out of order. We'll do the projects first. And then I'll do my ED report and the presentation that Nahua and I have prepared. Mike, do you know if Wayne was gonna call in? We hadn't heard from him.
I really don't know. I'm not sure if he might be awake right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's right. He did say he was not gonna be able to make it.
Yeah.
That's right.
We had there's a Western Association of College and University Business Officers went on the Waikoloa, and we needed to be out there yesterday morning, but he said he couldn't make it, so I had to fill in for him. So I think he's on a trip, so.
Okay. Hey, Roberta.
Hey.
Hi, Roberta.
Hey.
Roberta, this is Greg from IRT. He's here to answer any
Other
questions.
friends.
Oh, hi, Greg. I need to look over your shoulder. I'm gonna bring my computer because I hook up. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sitting over here because I have a cold. And I
Oh,
want to
yeah,
get into this. Hey, Andy.
Oh, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Hey.
Why does it say
Hey.
that?
Gonna turn off.
Yeah,
Go to sleep or?
it shouldn't. The camera says it's still rolling.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, Sarah. Hi, guys.
Julie, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Can she see us?
Can you see us?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, all right. Because our camera did something funny on this end. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, June.
Billy did say
Hi.
he's gonna.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry I didn't join right away. I have a new computer, so I was trying to figure it out.
No,
Well,
thank you. Robert,
yeah.
I was gonna ask, you take some things out of.
Yeah, of course.
I know,
Hello. Gosh, that went right in. It didn't even ask me if I wanted to be a panelist.
Yeah.
Is this Greg? You Greg? Or
No.
that Greg?
must be that great.
I'm just gonna leave them in there as an attendee.
Well. Where are you, Andy? Who are you?
Fantastic.
Really? That's great.
That's so exaggerated.
I wasn't sure about Bonnie.
I didn't hear from Bonnie.
Yes. neither did I.
She said that she was gonna try and make it in person.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
great.
Okay. So she's with the accreditation group, right?
No, that was last week. They had an awards ceremony this afternoon.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
That's why you see me in a law shirt. Otherwise it'd be a golf shirt.
Yumi got an
That's right.
award of some sort today.
Pardon me?
Who?
Yumi?
Yeah, we got recognized. You got
Oh,
one.
nice.
Rodrigo said he was going to some fancy thing today too.
Yeah, Rodrigo was
But he's on-
10-year service award or
Oh,
something.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
There's four of us.
Yeah,
We can start, yeah.
you can start.
Are you, and should we just courtesy call Billy?
I can call him again. I've been calling him all afternoon.
Oh,
He
Auntie Pat,
responded to my
Auntie
email.
Pat said that he was going to be on. She sent an email.
Yeah,
oh, okay, then no, that's all right.
Yeah.
Let's not
Okay.
bombard.
but Julie, are you there, Julie?
Yeah, Julie's in, right?
Julie's in.
Yeah, Julie's in, and then we'll have Billy in a little bit.
So actually, we can start. Here's Bonnie.
All right, maybe I should start. We have a lot to cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
Hi,
Okay, so. Yeah. I have 5:01. And we have quorum, so I will call the meeting to order. And as far as I know, there was no public comment or request for testimony. So I would like to have those attending via Zoom, raise your hand if you have someone else in the room with you. Seeing no hands raised, for the record, all attendees were in the room by themselves. Okay, so we will now move to approval of the minutes of the April 1st meeting. Minutes were circulated. Any changes or additions?
I'll move to accept the minutes as circulated.
Has been moved.
Julie second.
Oh, Julie second. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as circulated. All those in favor say aye, or raise
Aye.
your hand. Aye. Okay, minutes unanimously approved. Should we go into Kahukumana report, or do you want to?
Actually, they had asked to zoom in, so I don't know if nobody is in,
Noise on?
or noise on?
Yep,
Okay,
but she's the only one so far.
okay. Well, the Kahukumana report will be quick, so just let me do
Okay.
it real quick. So we did have a meeting with Kahukumana, last week. We didn't have any projects or whatnot to review with them. They had already reviewed the two items, that are on our agenda for this evening. And did not have any concerns. Kahukumana, is extremely interested in, the transition process and how that is going. Because, they would like to know at some point in time, what their role is going to be with the new authority, if any, at all. Shane is there. Thank you, Shane. And so we spent a lot of time talking about, the transition process, and specifically, about, one of the items that we'll be covering here tonight, which is, the discussions that we've been having with MK regarding, adoption of the UH plans and rules. It was based on that conversation that Kahukumana, Shane asked if they could, sit in on tonight's meeting, so that they can have the benefit of the, presentation that, Nahu and I will be doing, later in the agenda. That was pretty much the focus of the meeting. Shane, I don't know, as chair, do you want to add anything, about, the discussion we had last week?
Not so much, but thank you so much for allowing us to step in so that we could see, instead of doing having them do a presentation like 6 million times. Just thought of having it done once. But I think for Kahukumana, we're just interested in the directions that are happening, and figuring out ways on how we can best advise, not just the office, but maybe even some advice to the Maunakea Management Board in this process. I think this is going to take a little while, kind of like reviewing the CMP. We needed to come together and join together in the early stages of that review. So I feel like this is one of those occasions that we might have to do the same. Just looking at all of our roles and how they may evolve. But yeah, mahalo nui, you guys, and we're here to listen and help out as well, if possible, if needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. By the way, Maunakea Management Board needed members. If you have never met Shane, Shane is our chair and has been with Kahukumana for many, many years. And Noilani Cashman is one of our Kahukumana members, resident of Waimea, who has been very helpful to us in understanding community interests, particularly from that part of the island.
Can I add that Shane is really Kona? Yeah, comes from.
Yes, Kona.
So
yeah.
the Kahukumana is very well represented.
That's right.
Around the island.
Yeah,
Among
thanks.
many other things, Shane is instrumentally involved with the Department of Land and Natural Resources on the stewardship and management of Kealakekua Bay. He's very much a part of, been instrumental in helping develop the community-based program that they are trying to implement. So that's all we have for the
Okay,
Kahukumana.
so we can move on to executive director's report.
Yeah. I'm just gonna quickly cover these things and then I'd like to get into the agenda items and take some things out of order when we get into the agenda items if possible.
That's fine.
Okay. First item was just to give everyone a quick follow-up from the presentation that Doug Simons made to this board at our meeting last month. I believe it was well received. It seemed like folks found it very, very helpful and informative. Obviously, it has generated some interest in the community regarding, you know, from the IFA's perspective and from astronomy's perspective, some of the critical milestones and timelines that really we need to try to support and advance if the transition is going to be successful. I can say that as a result of his presentation to this body, he's now been asked to do the presentation to other groups. I know he is on the agenda for the Hawaii Leeward Planning Conference coming up at the end of the month. I believe he has also done the presentation for the Konokohala Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Committee. And we are looking at other potential venues and opportunities for him to share the presentation on basically his view on the current state of astronomy on Mauna Kea. I know one of the things that I've discussed with Roberta is a possibility of getting him in front of the Rotary clubs through Roberta and Newton's involvement. So if you folks know of other groups that may be interested in hearing his presentation, now that you've had a chance to see it, please let us know and we'll get you folks in touch with Doug. And I know he is more than willing to help share that information. So good follow-up from the last meeting. Last month, the authority held a community talk story session in Waimea. Since we have Bill here, Bill, you want to share how that went? I think it was successful and you folks got some good input, but it was a little different from you folks, from your previous community meetings.
Yeah, it was. Thanks, Greg. Sure, I'm happy to. The board has hosted, this is now 4 community talk story sessions since its inception. But this one, the first 3 were far less structured, more of an open talk story session, Q&A with board members who could be there. The one that was held on the 17th of April had a lot more structure to it. A deck of slides, an introduction of the board members, of the process of the formulation of the authority, going back to, you know, the 2019 protest, the 2015 protest, the legislation that was passed, the working group that was formed to present a report that generated the legislation, and the makeup of the board members and staff as it is. So it was more structure to it. The meat of the meeting, though, was that the board has recently developed a draft strategic framework for itself. And this was an opportunity to introduce it in the community. And part of the meeting was breakout sessions where there was an opportunity for small groups to interact among themselves and answer 2 broad questions that were offered by the facilitator, Mahina Paishan. What don't you understand and what's missing? And so there was a good interaction and we got a lot of very positive feedback. The synopsis is in draft form now, the write up of it. That was followed by a Q&A session with board members who were present. 7 of the 12 board members were able to be there that evening in person. There's a great picture of all of them sitting on the stage at Kahilu Town Hall. So yeah, this was a really great launch of a higher level of community input from the board and what it's working towards. The strategic framework will be used to guide a lot of coming documents, the management plan that is called for by the statute. And moving forward, it's sort of a guiding light in a way, if you will, using language and wording from the act itself. So it's not something they came up with by themselves. This is coming from the legislation that's in the body of this document. So The next one will be on June 26th
Oh,
in
okay.
Kona.
In Kona,
The
okay.
date is set, venue to be determined, but it will be in Kona. At same hour, 5 to 7 p.m. And we're trying to accelerate these meetings. The next would be, we're gonna work our way around the island, Ka'u, Hamakua, back to Waimea, and then eventually even on the neighbor islands. That's the hope, as this effort moves forward. So,
Great.
but yeah, it was, thank you, Greg, for being there and joining us. Well attended, probably 70 people in the room, another 20 online. And a lot of good interaction. Of course, members of the observatory staff from the Waimea community were there. Meeting was led by Rich Matsuda, director at Keck, and Pomai Bertelman, two Waimea members, two board members. Lanakila Mongwil did an opening, and so it was a far different one than we've had in the past, and it was well attended and well received. So
I know that, I followed up with some of the folks that I knew, who attended the meeting. And one of the common themes in their feedback was they appreciated seeing the board with all of its diversity together. I mean, I know not everybody was there, but the diversity on the board, diversity of perspectives on the board, you know, was well represented in those who were there. And they really appreciated seeing folks coming together with what they interpreted as a common goal of needing to find a path forward. All right, well, good. Look forward to seeing how the process continues. Any questions for Bill on the talk story?
Sorry, Bill, when and where were the 3 prior ones?
they were all in Hilo. Let's see. I'm not sure where the first one or when the first one was. The second one was in late spring of 2024. The third was, I believe, in August or September of last year. The second one was held at the Forestry and Wildlife Conference Room where they've been holding our meetings, the board meetings. The third one, prior to this one, the most recent was at Haleolelo, down the street here on campus. And then this one in Waimea. So, yeah, we'll make the rounds and, but yes, that's when they were held.
Great, thank you, Bill. Next item in my ED report, actually, I won't go into it in a lot of detail because it's going to be covered in the presentation that Nahua will be sharing with you. But a big topic of conversation for us in our joint management committee for the last several months is the process by which CMS, and MKSOA is engaging in updating to develop their management plan, which in their case has elements of what we call our master plan and our comprehensive management plan. The discussion of late has really sort of centered around adoption of UH's plans as a starting point for MKSOA's development of their plans. It's not something that has been decided yet or whatnot, but the conversation has been sort of focused on that particular strategy or approach. As I said, in the presentation that we'll do in a few minutes, we'll get more into the details. But we have been having active discussions about how we can help MKSOA facilitate their plan development. And then the last item I had was just a quick update on federal funding. I don't know, Mike and Bonnie probably have more relevant information. I did, just before this meeting, send out an email to the Maunakea Management Board members of current update that we just received from our Vice President of Research and Innovation, Vasilis Sirmos. One of the things that has been happening with the federal funding is federal agencies putting a cap on the indirect cost recovery that UH can get from or receive from newly awarded grants. It had already been announced for NIH, and I forget what the other one was. It had been announced, but then this last week, it was NSF
NSF.
is now part of that. I know that you folks are, many of the board members are very interested in sort of how that, what is happening on that front and how all of that affects the Center for Maunakea Stewardship. And as we've shared and discussed in the past, it does affect us because some of our support that we get from UH system comes from those indirect cost recovery funds that UH has been able to receive in the past. In the past, those rates have been negotiated between the institution and the agency. And what the agencies are now saying is it's going to be a flat rate of 15%, which is a drastic discount over what we have negotiated in the past. So anyway, you can see what the latest update is on the NSF front, at least in the email I forwarded to all of you. But we continue to work on or monitor the situation. We are working on some options for generating additional revenues to help cover our costs. Those aren't quite ready and fully baked yet, but we have had some productive conversations. I think I've mentioned it to you folks, for example, with the commercial tour operators in terms of raising their fees. They've been agreeable to that, but there's a whole sort of approval process that we have to go through. So once we have all of that information, we'll be ready to bring it to you folks to get your recommendations as well.
Greg, just to add, there will probably be litigation against the NSF action of the 15%, whether it's successful or not, of course, we don't know. And the Hawaii Attorney General has been super helpful in being involved in several of the litigation attempts with the federal government as these decisions get handed down.
Always get concerned, although I know it's necessary sometimes when we hear the word litigation. Can really complicate things, but sometimes you just gotta do it. Okay, so that concludes my executive director's report.
Okay,
You'd like me to just move into the?
yes,
Okay.
move into agenda items.
So, on the agenda, and I'm sorry, the first item under the agenda kind of had two things wrapped into one. But we do have two projects that we need to review with you folks. One is site plan application for the Canada-France-Hawaii Telescope Gemini fiber conduit removal. And that actually requires an action by this board on whether you recommend that the project go forward or not. The second is a concurrence request that we will be making on behalf of IRTF for some erosion and safety maintenance work that they want to do. That stuff is pretty straightforward, but as is our practice, we bring everything to this board for your review. Joy is with us tonight, and she'll be walking the group through the two projects, and then we have some folks from the observatories as well to answer questions. So Joy, can I turn it over to you? And let's take up the Canada-France Gemini conduit first. And you all should have the project materials.
Thank you, Greg, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, Chancellor Irwin, and the various board members, and also our observatory guests who can help answer any questions related to their respective project applications. So the first is the Canada-France-Hawaii Telescope. They are the host for this project, although it's shared with the Gemini North Observatory. After 20 years, there was some damage to the fiber within the conduit, and it took some time to identify, to locate where that problem was, but it's rendered the fiber and the conduit unusable. And the observatories, CFHT and Gemini, have determined to end the project and also remove then the conduit. Again, this is about 20 years old, and various approvals have applied to this over the years, starting with the initial installation, which was supposed to have been temporary, They were using it for testing at that point, and then subsequently found that the shared data, which was sent from Gemini to CFHT, worked really well, and they've continued using it over the last 2 decades. Then unfortunately, they found that the fiber was damaged. So this conduit was installed under site plan approvals, and this is why we are requesting site plan approval to remove it, similar to the decommissioning of the Hokulea and CSO observatories. The CMS has reviewed the project for any nearby resources, the historical, the natural, hydrological, et cetera. And we find no resources within the project area. And so we see no impacts to any resources that would be adverse or permanent. All that really needs to be done is to lift the conduit off the ground. It can be done in 1 day. CFHT has a contractor that's ready to go. And the observatories are also asking for the conduit ends to be left in place. So if we could pull up the project packet, please.
Yeah.
And we can go to figure 2.
Is it the CFHT Ohana binder?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that the image that we're pulling up will just show you what it looks like on the ground. So the observatories are asking to remove the above ground portion. It's about 270 feet. That's between the 2 observatories. I think it's on page 8. Almost there. It's also in the staff report, I think. Page 8 of the PDF.
Yeah, this is page 8.
Oh, oops.
Try 5. There we go. There we go.
Yeah, that one. So that above ground portion that we're looking at, that's about 270 feet. That's the part that would be removed. The ends of the conduit are buried at both the CFHT and the Gemini end, and they're asking to keep that in place to minimize the ground disturbance. There's otherwise very little ground disturbance to removing the conduit because, as you see, it rests on the ground, and they would just pull up the concrete pads that are holding it in place, or concrete blocks. And I think that's it for this project.
So the couple of things I would just add, one, as Joy indicated, given, I mean, if you read the project proposal, this project is pretty straightforward, and everything is above ground, and it's not going to take a lot of work to remove it. But because of how it was originally permitted, that's why we're going for the site plan approval, as opposed to just a concurrence letter. Just wanted to emphasize that point. The other point is at the entry points where the conduit does go underground on Canada, France, and Gemini's properties, they want to cap it there with the idea is that that conduit, the remaining conduit will be removed at the time of decommissioning of the facilities. I don't know, did you want to add anything?
Nope, that covered it. Yeah, we're good.
Bill, did you have a chance to go up and view the site?
I'm going to tomorrow.
Oh, you're going tomorrow? Okay.
Familiar with it though.
Okay. So just so this board knows, we are presenting this project to MK SOA because it is a type B project. MK SOA has asked to review those as well. So we will be reviewing this with the authority board on Thursday. Any questions? If not, this is one we need a vote to recommend approval that a project goes forward.
And I have a motion to recommend the project to the UH Board of Regents. No, I'm sorry, to Chancellor Irwin.
Motion to move the review to Chancellor Irwin.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great, thanks for the second. All in favor, say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Unanimous approval to recommend.
Okay, thank you very much. The next project is the concurrence on the IRTF safety and erosion control measures. Joy, you wanna review this again? Thank you.
Thank you. IRTF is trying to catch up on some deferred maintenance and also to maintain compliance with OSHA regulations. And so they've looked at their facility and need to do a number of small improvements. They are asking to, for instance, install the diverter pipe, which would redirect water. And the little rainfall that we do get sometimes comes down hard, like during storms, and it's eroding their footprint. So the pipe would help deflect that water across the driveway. The pipe would be buried under cinder that's coming up to replace what's lost around their parking area. That's part 2 of the request. They also need to, they're seeing that people are crawling all over their outbuilding, which is a safety hazard, and they're asking to install a safety railing. It would be painted brown. It's shown as yellow in the project packet just to really highlight it. But Kahukumana had asked that it be painted brown. That's being done. That will be done. And then finally, they'd like to install just 3 conduit covers to the outside of their facility where wiring enters the building. Again, we have reviewed it for any impacts to nearby resources. We do not see any impacts to resources as there are none on the site or nearby, no historic resources, no natural resources. And again, this is to maintain OSHA compliance, especially with the conduit installation. And so we're asking, we would like to present to OCCL for a concurrence and allow our IRTF to do this work.
So this is a project that does not require Maunakea Management recommendation, but we are bringing it forward for information. If there's anything that you see in the project that you would like us to get work into the project, that's we can certainly do that. As Joy indicated, Kahukumana wanted to make sure that the railing that IRTF wants to install is painted brown rather than the bright yellow that you see in the pictures. Any questions, any feedback for us on the project?
Just a quick question. So the figure on figure 4, what exactly is that
Can you pull that up?
thing there? I know
Sarah's gonna pull
it's
this up.
with that
Hang on.
conduit, electrical box, but I'm not quite sure what that picture is of.
I'll let you answer, Chris.
Okay.
We have with us Chris Yamasaki. He is the telescope manager.
Yeah, that one.
Okay, so what you see here is we have our cameras mounted around the observatory. We have several of them, and we have wires that are exposed. So rather than keeping it exposed and going just through a through hole, which also allows air to vent through, we'd like to put the OSHA NFPA rated box over there, and the box is very minimal in size. And all it is it'll help us clean up the wiring and actually make it more presentable to look at.
Got it.
And
Safer to
yeah, and safer.
Thank you.
any other questions or feedback? Okay, if not, thank you very much for your support on these projects so we can get them moving forward. Okay, the next item then is we'll go back to the discussion on adoption of our plans. And for our MKO observatory folks, you're more than welcome to stay for this, but you don't have to. It's up to you. This is going to take a little bit of time, however, I will give folks that warning. So as I mentioned, we have been in discussions, earnest discussions with our colleagues at Maunakea Authority, the Maunakea Stewardship Authority, especially in recent months through a joint management committee discussing different ways to facilitate their plan development. Among other things, as you know, Act 255 requires them to develop their version of a management plan. There's many, many components to that. There are also many other aspects of the whole transition process that are tied into them developing their plans, including transfer of employees, assets, liabilities, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things that we've been discussing, and again, this is only in discussion right now, is the idea of the authority adopting our plans as a starting point. In effect, our plans are actually serving as our guiding documents now anyway, because they're the only plans that are, and our administrative rules are the only things that are in place right now. And so the idea of adopting them and then building them out to what the authority needs to address in their expanded plan would help facilitate things. So as a result of those discussions, Executive Director DeFries asked us if we could develop some materials to begin educating and orienting the authority board members on exactly how our master plan, our CMP and administrative rules, the process that we went through to develop those, exactly what's in them, what their purposes are, how they're organized, and how they're connected to each other. In addition to that, Director DeFries asked if we would also give in, we've been working with the authority now for going on almost 2 years. He asked us, given what we know and have come to understand about where their board is wanting to go, some of the directions and values in particular that they're wanting to work from, whether we would also be able to opine on where we thought in our plans and our rules, things aligned with the direction that they're moving, and areas where we thought maybe they would want to spend more time looking at. There's a whole bunch of things that are not in our plans that they have to develop because of Act 255. For example, we do not handle environmental permitting. That's something that they're going to have to develop and integrate into their plans and their rules. But we have a lot of the other pieces. And one of the pieces relevant to Doug Simon's presentation last month is the commitments we made in our master plan around the future of astronomy and the footprint. Future footprint for astronomy on the Mauna, which, as you may recall, we capped things at 9 observatories. So adoption of our plans would help facilitate a lot of other things beginning to happen. So as we've been discussing that, and as John asked us to put this material together, first of all, I want to give kudos to Nahua. She's really done the yeoman's work on putting this material together. We presented this initially to the Joint Management Committee, and I think it was well received. We were asked to present it to one of their permitted interaction groups who is working with the management team on their plan development, their PIG. So we presented that last week, and I believe that was also very well received. And so we've now been asked to present it to the authority board members, the full board, this coming Thursday. And so we wanted to make sure Maunakea Management Board had an opportunity to view the material as well. So what we have, what the material that was sent out included the slide decks that Nahua has put together are in the master plan, comprehensive management plan, and a little bit on the administrative rules. And so I'm gonna ask Nahua to walk you all through it. This is gonna take a little bit of time, apologize. But I think it is important that you folks have an opportunity to see this material since we'll be presenting it to the authority board as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Nahua.
Okay. Sarah, can you go ahead and share the first one, which will be the master plan? So of course, everything starts off from our master plan. And so we'll start with that one first. If at any time you have a question, I'll try to pause for questions. And Greg, if you need to jump in any time, please do.
Okay.
Oh, Sarah, we've got some there. That's better. Okay. You can advance this slide. This is the master plan for the University of Hawaii Maunakea lands.
Sorry.
Thank you. So the master plan, as many of you know, is made up of three parts: the foundations, the physical plan, and the implementation. And before we kind of dive into everything, I just want to let you know this is a very brief overview. The master plan, the CMP, the outcome analysis report that we'll take a look at, and even the supplement were several hundred pages. But the goal here is just to give you a snapshot of kind of what's included and at a very, very high level. So just to pique someone's interest to hopefully go and read it. Anyway, so the master plan is made up of three parts: the foundations, which is part one, where you have the mission, the vision, the values, goals, objectives, and background. The physical plan, part two, which is talks about all of the different areas, including Halepohaku, Mauna Kea Science Reserve, and the roadway utilities and the managed access. And implementation is part three, where we talk about the proposal review process, the design guidelines, adoption, effectiveness, and future amendments. And so this is just kind of how the whole master plan is laid out. So next slide. So foundations, this part one discusses the foundations of the master plan, and it talks about just the foundations of what the master plan rests on and have guided the decisions reflected in it. When we looked at this, we really feel like this section will probably need to be updated by MK-SOA, because this really reflects the university's mission, vision, goals, and a little bit about the background. The university had 4 goals, which is they had a stewardship goal, an astronomy goal, an education goal, and a balance goal. And all of that was included here. I did want to highlight the background. The purpose of the master plan is to guide UH's consideration and prioritization of proposed land uses within the UH Mauna Kea lands in a manner that is consistent with UH's mission and purpose. It defines the land covered by the plan, the UH Mauna Kea lands, its relationship to past plans, and reviews implementation and funding. Next slide. The physical plan really talks about the facilities and the land uses that UH believes may occur within the UH Mauna Kea lands over the period of this master plan. We really felt like some of this section may be used by Mauna Kea. It talks about when projects are proposed, the definition of land use, and highlight some of those areas. It is here in the physical plan section where it says, as you can see under the Mauna Kea Science Reserve, MKSR, is where the discussion of the astronomy sites, the future of astronomy, and UH commitments. It is here that we talk about the 9 astronomy sites, the 5 of the 14 astronomy sites to be decommissioned. That site 13 will be the last new site developed. So I just wanted to highlight that in this section is where the university talks about that in detail. And it is also in this section under roadways, utilities, and managed access that we discuss the future projects. This section also provides guidance for astronomy sites on wastewater management, because that is one of the questions that keep coming up and coming up. So I've just highlighted here that all facilities in operation beyond 2033 will be required to replace existing wastewater facilities with a zero discharge system. So the goal here was, I just wanted to highlight some of the major points that keeps recurring in a lot of the discussions in the public realm. Next slide. Implementation in the master plan. This section talks about the implementation of the master plan, including the proposal review process, design guidelines, and amendment procedures for the master plan. We feel like some of this section could be used by MK-SOA. The proposal review process, which you guys are a part of, MK-SOA has already approved and is implementing this section for type B and C project reviews. So they're already using this part of the master plan. The design guidelines is to provide early guidance on community input in a manner that prepares the proposals for future permits and approvals by minimizing all of the different effects. So the design guidelines is another area that they're starting to already implement. And adoption, effectiveness, and future amendments. This section talks about how the UH Board of Regents adopted the master plan to guideline use decisions by UH in the Maunakea lands. It is intended to provide policy level guidance and criteria to UH decision makers. I did want to highlight is in this section, it talks about this is not a regulatory document or required by DLNR like the comprehensive management plan. This is a UH document, and it was anticipated that this master plan will not be amended during its 20-year life. But if it does need to be amended, it will need to be reviewed by advisory bodies where public input can be heard. So I just wanted to highlight, and in red, I put the master plan is an integral part of an environmental impact statement that will be required for new land authorization or general lease. So we updated this in 2022 with the idea that we were getting ready for our new land authorization or general lease that we were working on, because a lot of this will be used to fill in for the environmental impact statement. So that's just a general, real high level, what's included in the master plan. And any questions? If not, we can move to the comprehensive management plan. We can close this one. Okay, so we can go to the next. This is the Maunakea Comprehensive Management Plan. It's just a high-level overview of the Comprehensive Management Plan. I just wanted to provide some key background points. First, that Maunakea lands are conservation lands. The UH management areas or Maunakea lands are in the State of Hawaii Conservation District. And so the land use in these areas are regulated by BLNR, and all activities and uses within the Maunakea lands must follow BLNR's Conservation District regulations. Leases, the things that are covered by this comprehensive management plan are the 2 leases for the Maunakea Science Reserve area and Halepohaku, as well as the roadway easement that connects both parcels. A comprehensive management plan, the CMP as we call it, is a DLNR lease requirement. So we are required to do this plan as part of our lease, and that's in the law. And before we had management plans that were they weren't comprehensive. And so the DLNR administrative rules defines a management plan as a comprehensive management plan for carrying out multiple land uses on state conservation land. And our UHCMP specifically addresses multiple land uses and resource values within the UH management areas. And this UHCMP was submitted by UH to BLNR for public review and comment and prior to the approval by the board. And the other piece is that part of the CMP is that we are required to do annual reports on the status of the management actions that are provided to BLNR and DLNR, and copies can be found on our website. So this is a little bit about the CMP and how it was created. Next slide. So you can go to the next slide. We'll talk about the 2009 CMP, Comprehensive Management Plan. The 2009 CMP was developed to replace the 1995 Management Plan after the development of the 2000 Master Plan, feedback from the auditors, reports, litigation, and community input. It was determined that UH didn't just need a management plan for its uses, but a comprehensive management plan for all the UH Maunakea lands, even those subleased to other entities, including observatory facilities. It is important to note that the CMP utilizes adaptive management strategies to protect Maunakea's unique cultural and natural resources. And the adaptive strategy suggests that as more information becomes available, the CMP will be amended to adapt to the new information through the annual and 5-year review processes. It is important to note that the 2022 CMP supplement that will be later reviewed only updates certain sections of the 2009 CMP, primarily Section 7, and not all of it. In addition, in 2019, the administrative rules were developed to regulate public and commercial activities. That regulation part is not in the CMP. It is covered by the administrative rules. So I just want to make sure everybody understands the 2009 CMP, most of it is in place. The only thing that was in the 2022 CMP supplement was primarily Section 7, and there was a small section in Section 3 that was updated. Any questions?
Yeah, so the 2022 supplement, because it covered only Section 7 and you said a portion of 3, I mean, was the supplement done because there was not clarity in those sections? And was that why it's a supplement and just covering those 2 areas, 2 sections?
Correct. That's why we didn't do it. It's not a replacement of the entire CMP.
And what I would add is Section 7 is where are delineated, the update on the specific management actions, which included updating things like, our desired outcomes and whatnot. We felt that a lot of the rest of the CMP, was still very relevant and didn't need to be updated. But just updating that section by itself was a tremendous lift, because that's where the 103 management actions are identified. And so that's what we focused on.
Okay. So when were the administrative rules done and approved? I mean, was it before the 2022?
All of 2019.
Yeah.
I remember it well.
And Nahua has a slide that will get your attention.
Because there were so many things
That's
going on and, I was involved at the time, but honestly, to keep all the dates and all the specifics in place, it's really hard. So thank you for that clarity.
Okay, next slide. So I want to point out the different sections in the 2000 CMP. Section 1 through 4 covers the importance of the CMP. It discusses the importance of the CMP, the management environment that resulted in the development of the CMP, and the processes of developing it in consultation with interested community members. Section 5 through 6 covers the cultural and natural resources, and it's detailed information about the cultural and natural resources on Mauna Kea. Section 7 primarily is a list of management actions for dealing with the multiple existing and future activities and uses in the UH management areas. Next section. Next slide. So just so you can see, this is just a quick overview of all of the different parts of the plan. As you can see, There's a cultural anchor, executive summary, the three different main sections, and then all of the areas beneath it. And then we'll cover this in a little bit more detail in the following slides. Next slide. So sections 1 through 6 includes the cultural anchor, executive summary, and sections 1 through 4 and sections 5 through 6. The cultural anchor, executive summary, and sections 1 through 4 will need to be updated as they are related to UH's process for the development of the CMP. However, we feel some of this information could be used as a historical framework in MK-SOA's plan. Under section 5 through 6, it provides a historical background, and most of this information we feel could be used in MK-SOA's plan. It's just a lot of the historical information about Mauna Kea or oral histories, the natural resources, and the human environment at the time. Any questions?
Just for clarity, Nahua, on the cultural and natural resources part, just for transparency, that also covers all of the state and federal guidelines that the board is required to adhere to, basically section 7 for endangered species and section 106 for cultural resources management.
Correct. Okay, next slide. In section 7, this is kind of where we get into the meat of the CMP. Section 7 describes the management actions needed to address the various management needs identified during the process of developing the CMP. There were 5 areas that were 5 major sections within this section. It was understanding and protecting Mauna Kea's resources, managing access, managing the built environment, and managing operations, and 1995 plan controls. The management actions are organized by topic. So like the native resources, natural resources, cultural resources, education and outreach, astronomy, and so on. Each component plan is organized in 5 sections. The desired outcome, the goal, the current status, background information, and current management activities and any problems. The need, what type of actions are needed to achieve the desired outcomes. Management actions, specific aspects of the program development to meet the needs and achieve desired outcomes, and additional considerations, any additional detail on developing and implementing management activities. So we'll go to the next slide. It kind of provides a little bit more detail. I just wanted to give you a little snapshot of what the desired outcomes were for each section. As you can see, and every section has this, but the first one here is the Native Hawaiian culture and history. It was to increase an understanding and appreciation of Native Hawaiian history and cultural practices related to Mauna Kea to ensure that these practices are protected and respected. Identify, document the coordination, the condition of, and protect historic properties in the UH management areas. So these are what were the big desired outcomes for each of the different sections. And so you can see that this is a little bit of a snapshot of that. Next slide.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so Nahua, this is the 2009.
Yes.
Section 7.
Yes, so you just have to remember that.
Yeah, 2022, which was a supplement that basically took section 7 and created even more detail, because between 2009 and 2022, a lot of issues were uncovered, right, Greg?
Yeah.
I mean, so you know, designing something now for 20 years, in the future, very difficult to understand all the issues. So that's the reason for the supplement, right?
Right.
But within each plan, is there a requirement for an update or, a review? Or so, wait, I remember master plan had a 20-year life. Right?
Right.
Yes,
Was the master plan updated? Because
Yes.
we're obviously past 2020.
yes.
Yes.
The
Okay,
master
so
plan
that-
was updated in 2022, and that is the one that I just went over. That was the update.
So is that the supplement?
No, the master plan doesn't have a supplement. The master plan was
okay.
updated in its entirety.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so
And
that's,
that's when you went through each section and updated what areas needed updated.
yes, so the entire thing was updated, where this 2009 CMP, only section 7 was updated. So what we're looking at is all of this has been updated, but I'm providing it as a little bit of background so that you can see the progression.
Right, because the CMP didn't necessarily have to be rewritten. I recall it was reviewed, but it was specific that section 7 needed a lot of work, which is why the supplement.
Correct, yes. But I wanted to show, and that's what I'm showing here, is what was done in 2009, so you can see a little bit of the change when we get
Thank
to.
you.
Given Roberta's question, it might be nice to have a slide that lays out the timeline. I mean, it is confusing.
Yeah, I mean,
I can do that.
I mean, I guess from the standpoint that with a timeline, you understand that things were not, I mean, it wasn't that it wasn't dealt with, it was reviewed and it was, changed as the need arise. And I guess that is probably the biggest question for, and the reason why MP-SAW and all this is, I just don't know if people really understand how much work was put in from the time when the, master plan was put in place, then the comprehensive management plan, and hence finally the administrative rules, which really gave the university authority to act on, people not complying with the law. I mean, there was no, right? Administrative rule. I mean, you had no authority to do anything.
Yeah, we were required by, well, it was pointed out and by the auditor, and we're required to develop the rules. But we actually, part of what had to happen under Office of Maunakea Management is that they actually had to go to the legislature to get approval authorization to actually develop rules. And that came first, and then it was the development of the rules. The rules has its own life cycle and timeline that Nahua will show in the next presentation.
Okay.
But your point about, Bonnie, about an overall timeline, about how all of this sort of flowed out, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we can work on.
Okay, next slide. So again, just a little bit of the background. These are the desired outcomes in some of the different areas.
Again, from the 2009 plan.
Yes, from the 2009 plan. Next slide. This is a little bit of an overview of how the management actions were developed. So management actions were created with the understanding that, number one, Mauna Kea is a culturally significant site. Number two, the high elevation areas of Mauna Kea represent a unique global resource that should be preserved for future generations. Number three, management activities will be focused on limiting the impacts of human activities on cultural and natural resources. And number four, the planning and execution of resource management programs will involve input from the larger community, including scientists, educators, cultural practitioners, public, etc. There are 103 management actions in the 2009 CMP. And you can see the kind of the breakdown of all the different management actions. Next slide. And this slide didn't turn out very good, but I just wanted to give you a snapshot of the management actions from the 2009 CMP, just so you can see. under natural resources number 1 is limit threats to the natural resources through management of permitted activities and uses. And these are the things that we report on in the annual report. Next slide. Oh, you've missed one. Go back.
Sorry.
Section 7 in the 2009 CMP had an interesting section. It was called the 1995 Management Controls. And the 1995 Management Controls basically was replaced by the 2019 Administrative Rules. And these were kind of the rules or controls that were covered within the CMP, such as setting the hours of operation, opening and closing the road, four-wheel drive recommended. All of these ended up within the administrative rules. What was really interesting was the controls that were eliminated. The National Ski Patrol patrol duties were eliminated because that wasn't in operation, and commercial snow play tours and commercial ski meets and events. So how times have changed. I thought those were very interesting to see from 2009. Next slide. So the 2021 outcome analysis report is really important. If you don't want to read the CMP, I would recommend, if you're going to read one thing, I would recommend reading the 2021 outcome analysis report. The objective of this report was a progress report that describes the state of the resources, the status of the various management programs, progress towards meeting the CMP goals, and other relevant information. The outcome analysis report is made up of 3 sections: the state of the resources, management and outreach, and program status. The state of the resource basically took a look at the present state of the cultural and natural resources, including a summary of all the data that was collected to that point, including monitoring, research, restoration, and threat prevention and control activities. Management and outreach, it was basically the goals and objectives of the CMP have to do with the way the UH managed areas are administered and managed. Includes the overview of outreach and education efforts, followed by a topic-by-topic discussion of the extent to which the efforts have resulted in UH meeting the CMP goals and objectives for each category. And then the program status, basically the extent to which UH's efforts, sorry, I can't see the words, have been successful in achieving, sorry, that got bigger, successful in achieving the CMP's stated goals and objectives, desired outcomes, and identifies areas where additional effort and or a correction in course. And this is where adaptive management may be appropriate. So next slide.
So just as another point of information, under the 2009 CMP, prior to updating the management plan, it calls for doing this outcome analysis report. So this was the first step that we had to do. And this by itself took a year or so, because we had to review all the data that the Office of Maunakea Management had previously collected on all the different studies that have been done, and organize all of that and report on all of that. And then figure out, okay, based on what we had come to understand, how the management actions needed to be amended. So this was actually a critical first step in the development of the 2022 supplement.
Okay, next slide. I just wanted to give you an overview, kind of the status of management actions from the outcome analysis report. As you can see, we have a listing of the 103 management actions, those actions that were completed, those actions that were completed but have ongoing implementation, and then those actions that were primarily ongoing. So you can see a breakdown of all of the different actions. Next slide. This is just a kind of a highlight of some of the completed actions. A lot of the completed actions relate to the development of what we call today our subplans. The cultural resource management subplan, natural resources management subplan, invasive species control plan, education and outreach plan, orientation plan, and so on. These were all part of the management actions, and these all were completed when we did the outcome analysis report in 2021. Next slide. So now we'll move on to the supplement. Oops. And one of the things the 2022 supplement really focused on was adaptive management. This supplement, together with the OER, the outcome analysis report, and other annual reports, provides a systematic process for continually improving management policies and practices for resource protection by learning from past and current outcomes, called adaptive management. So two changes were in the 2022 supplement, updating the wording in section 3.1.1 and replacing section 7 of the 2009 CMP. And I just wanted to note that this supplement does not propose any new activities or land uses. You can go to the next slide. The wording in section 3.1.1 was updated to reflect the following. The 2009 CMP, and it updated the definition of the UH management areas. The term UH management areas will be synonymous with the Maunakea lands, which are defined under the Hawaii Revised Statutes 304A-1901 as the lands that the University of Hawaii is leasing from the Board of Land and Natural Resources, including the Maunakea Science Reserve, Halepohaku, oh, the O did not, sorry, there's a little typo there. The connecting roadway corridor between Halepohaku and the Maunakea Science Reserve, and any other lands on Maunakea that the University of Hawaii leases or over which the University of Hawaii acquires control or jurisdiction. So this was a very small update in section 3, but very important. Next slide. So previously you've seen that section 7 had like 5 different categories and then all of the different component parts. And when we redid it in the supplement, all of those different components became basically different chapters or subjects. And each subject included an introduction, a desired outcome, the need, and the management actions. In the introduction, it provided a brief background and identifies a section of the 2021 OER where information concerning the status of the topic can be found. It was really important to be able to tie the OER with the updates in the supplement. The desired outcome, which summarizes the goals associated with the subject. The desired outcomes have not substantially changed, maybe a little bit of the wording, and it talks about it in that section. The need, which provides a brief high-level discussion of why the subject and its management actions are needed to advance proper management of the UH managed areas. And of course, the management actions, which basically details what we're going to be doing based on the desired outcome and the needs. So these are all of the different sections. Next slide. I just wanted to show you a quick snapshot of a really short chapter so you can see all of the different sections and kind of what it looks like, and then the management actions that resulted from this. This is one of our shortest ones, but there's a lot of pages that went into it. You can see the introduction, a little bit about what the desired outcome is and the needs. So next slide. I won't spend too much time on that. I wanted to also give you a snapshot of what the adaptive management is about, so you'll understand that a little bit. Adaptive management can be found throughout the update and through the throughout the 2009. I mean, that's supposed to be 2022 supplement. CR 14 in the 2009 CMP is a simple example of an action that was adapted and why. CR 14 said, immediately report any disturbance of a shrine or burial to the Rangers, Docare, KKM Council, and Shifty. In this 2022 supplement, it has been updated to, and you can see CR 14, report disturbance of historic shrine or burial site. So in 2009, we didn't have a structure set up with the Rangers and with management. And so as soon as something was found, whoever found it reported it right away. So it went to Docare, and all of the different areas were notified. Today, we have management in place. The Rangers immediately report this to management, and then from there, management provides a report to Docare, KKM, and Shifty via email. And so you can see how we have adapted this particular management action.
So basically, throughout the update, wherever something was adapted, you'll see a little explanation like this for each of the sections that there was an adaptation made.
Right. Okay, next slide. And then the other unique thing in the 2022 CMP is what we call this education clusters. The discussion of education and outreach are presented as clusters in this supplement. And this is done to better capture in one section the diverse CMP management actions that address these two topics and to avoid repetition and inconsistency. Importantly, clustering reflects UH's holistic approach to them and identifying opportunities for place-based and community-based programs that can amplify UH's efforts and benefits to the community. So now all of the education and outreach management actions are clustered together, so you can find them all in one area, because a lot of those are interwoven together. And so I thought this was a really important thing to highlight in how we use it in everyday operations. This is an important part of making sure that we cover everything, no matter what type of education and outreach we're doing.
So just to expound on that a little bit, in each of the different sections, like cultural resources or natural resources, or even management, you would find management actions that had to do with education and outreach. And they're scattered throughout the plan. So what we did was that we clustered them, as Nahua said, in great part because we believe education and outreach should be approached in a much more integrated fashion. So that's why we created these clusters.
And a classic example of that is today. We had a meeting where we had, folks with stargazing, folks with natural resources, education outreach, management. We all sat together to talk about some of the coordinating outreach and education, because we have a lot of overlapping. We do slightly different things, but we're all working together. So this is, we use this every day. Next slide.
Question before we move on.
Sure.
Nahua, are you working with MKSO in terms of looking at these education clusters to see what can we retain, or how do we transfer that over?
We haven't gotten there yet. They're very interested in keeping what we have in place, but they're still, thinking about exactly what they want to do.
Okay.
And then I wanted to give you a snapshot of our annual report to the Board of Land and Natural Resources. And this report can be found on our website under the Plans and Reports section if you're ever interested in taking a look at it. But it provides a snapshot of what we report to the BLNR based on our management actions. And as you can see, a lot of you have seen these before, but CR number 10, implement historic property monitoring plan. And as you can see in 2023, we visited 100 sites and documented them. And there are 260 documented sites. And then you can see all of the different surveys that we did. And this report is provided to BLNR. Okay, you can go to the next slide. And this slide, is kind of I want to say it's partly my opinion. Um, I took MKSOA's draft strategic framework and really took a look at our CMP and to see how is it related and, how could we integrate is part of the CMP into what they're doing. And I took a look at each of the different, the mission and then the core values. And the core values, when I started looking at this, I was actually, I guess maybe not surprised because growing up here, since Greg and I have taken over, we have worked really hard with Kaukumana, with you folks here at Maunakea Management Board. And I think a lot of these things we have implemented but we didn't really have like a core value, a name to it. And so just to give you some examples, Mauna Aloha, and in my understanding of it, basically, it's their responsibility to give back when doing activities on the Mauna while understanding that how spiritually and culturally significant Mauna Kea is. And working with KKM, Chair Shane has been very big about making sure that each project on the Mauna has a give back component. So I feel like we're already implementing that. Opu Kupuna is continually highlighting the importance and significance of Mauna Kea, understanding and perpetuating Native Hawaiian culture. We have been working really hard on this with staff training, improvement of the displays at the Viz, with our outreach and how we conduct ourselves before doing stewardship activities. With the hiring of our education outreach coordinator, Kaleo Pelago, and the guidance of KKM, we have been working hard to make sure we've really been implementing that and kind of changing the direction of how we do staff training and implementing this. I don't know if I'm going to say this right. Holomua Oi Kela, adaptive management and stewardship. Always looking to do what is best for the Mauna and for future generations. I feel like we do this every day. Every time we look at a project, every time we look at our research proposal to do anything on the Mauna, we're always looking at how is it going to help the Mauna and how is it going to be best for future generations. So I feel like we're already implementing that. And it's, as you can see, adaptive management is something that we do in the CMP. And then the Kanawai, the mindful of the laws of nature and human impact. The CMP guides us to minimize the effects of the human impact on the environment. And we are always working to make as little impact as possible. That I feel like this is woven into the CMP. It doesn't necessarily say this is a Kanawai value, but we've woven it and we do this, our staff does this pretty much every day. Ohana is working together for what is best for the Mauna. And an example of this is supporting other sister agencies while even though not our jurisdiction, so that the health and the stewardship of the Mauna is always taken care of. When our rangers are out, they don't care where the boundaries are. If there is trash on the other side of the boundary, I tell them pick it up, because we're working together and for what's best for the Mauna and to make sure that the Mauna is stewarded, the whole thing, not just our little Mauna Kea area. We understand that is our jurisdiction but we work really hard to do what's right for the Mauna while supporting our sister agencies such as the NAR and DOFA. And Kuleana, for the benefit of the Mauna, work together in a way that is respectful to all. We have really working really hard with our rangers and our staff to change our approach to be more educational rather than enforcement focused. With the hiring of our lead ranger, Dwayne Waipa, we have changed our ranger attitudes to be ambassadors of aloha rather than being enforcement. How can we educate and teach people rather than saying, you cannot go? We tell them, we want you to come, but you need to be respectful. And this is why you need to be respectful, because Mauna Kea is a special place. So all of these core values, I think our team with the leadership of Greg, we have, and guidance of Kaukumana and Maunakea Management Board, we have already been doing.
I'd like to
Um,
just add one quick piece. So just as a reminder, those core values listed there, those come directly from MPSOA's strategic framework. And so what we're trying to do is crosswalk it as much as possible. This is a very high level crosswalk to where we think we are operating in alignment with those. But it's not just what we're doing. I mean, since we have entered into this joint management arrangement, Bill has been instrumental in helping pull together some of the sister agencies on the DLNR side and has facilitated, coordinated and facilitated bringing different divisions within DLNR together with our folks to talk about opportunities for shared stewardship across the Mauna. In addition to that, I want to also give a shout out to Nahua. Recently, she pulled together a meeting with all first responders. So we, in addition to our rangers, we had fire department, police department, PTA. We actually had the garrison commander, Lieutenant Colonel Alvarado, come up and join us and talk about how much, not just how much we rely on each other, but are there opportunities to actually coordinate? So as an example of something that came out of that meeting, one of our observatory safety directors actually wanted to know if there was a plan in place, if there was a mass
Casualty.
event, catastrophic event at the summit area. How would we get people off the mountain if access was blocked for some reason, wildfire or something like that? And that led to a whole discussion with the county fire department. They have some new capabilities with the high helicopter. They can fly at high elevations. So now it's a matter of sort of looking at, you know, if something like that were to happen, exactly how all of that gets coordinated, who's in charge, and where would there be potential landing spots for the helicopter to pick people up to take them off the mountain. So there's some really exciting opportunities that we're already working on that I think are, and that's just the Ohana core value. There's others as well. But I do think as Nahua said, a lot of this is sort of, we haven't necessarily given it these names, but it's been integrated into everything that we're wanting to do and have been doing.
Exactly. Okay, next slide. And I just wanted to highlight, as we reviewed their guiding principles, the first one was commitment to community engagement. And we are definitely committed to community engagement. More dialogue with all parts of the community, working to improve that with the hiring of our education outreach coordinator, Kaleo Pilago. So we're working really hard to do more of that. To the point, part of our meeting with all of the teams today is that we're getting more and more requests. And so making sure that we can cover everyone that wants to come, all of those different school groups and things like that. So I think we're making strides in that area. Land use controls, human activity for specific purposes with close oversight while minimizing the impact to the Mauna. And I really feel like that is built into our CMP and project review process. Protection of Native Hawaiian rights. I felt like this was built into our CMP as well and continues to improve with the hiring of our education and outreach coordinator and the changing of our ranger approach with the hiring of lead Ranger Dwayne Whitepaw, an approach to education rather than enforcement. Staff training and improving interactions with cultural practitioners is a really big thing for us right now. Restoration of natural resources, management of human activity on the Mauna. And again, this is integrated in our planning review process in the CMP and in the master plan. The significance of the Mauna is unique culturally, environmentally, and scientifically. Activities must be of the higher standards integrated, and this is already integrated in our project review process. And then, of course, the support of astronomy, support while being mindful of mutual stewardship of the Mauna. And I feel, again, this is already integrated in our CMP and our processes. So a lot of what they have is not new. And I feel like a lot of it is covered in our CMP and master plan. Any questions before we move on to the administrative rules real quickly?
Yeah, so that was comprehensive management plan. We
Yeah.
just have a very few slides on the administrative rules, but are any questions on the CMP itself?
Madam Chair, I'll have to excuse myself. I'm gonna turn into a pumpkin.
Oh,
But thank you. Thanks for being here, all of you. And I appreciate the opportunity to be joining you.
Thanks,
Thank you for coming.
Everybody
Yeah.
on camera, we'll see you.
Okay,
See you again soon. Well,
okay, if not, then you want to go into administrative rules?
Yes, and I'll try to run through this fairly quickly. Our Hawaii administrative rules is Title 20, Chapter 26. So you can forward it. The purpose of the rules is to provide for the proper use, management, and protection of cultural, natural, and scientific resources of the UH management areas, to promote public safety and welfare by regulating public and commercial activity. And public input, the rules are a result of extensive consultation and public outreach, which included Native Hawaiian organizations, Hawaii Island business organizations, commercial tour operators, and government agencies. Okay, next slide. A little background, the rules were developed, the state auditor in 1998 and 2005 recommended the university develop rules and regulations for development and public access in the Summit and Halepohaku area to control public access and commercial activities. BLNR approved UH's comprehensive management plan in 2009, which recommended the UH adopt rules. And the legislature granted UH rulemaking authority under Act 132 Session Laws of Hawaii in 2009. And Act 132 is codified in part under HRS 304A-1901 through 1905. So just a little background is that in order to adopt rules, the legislature had to grant UH the authority to do so. Next slide. Act 132's requirements applicable to Maunakea lands, also known as the UH managed areas. The Board of Regents may adopt rules pursuant to Chapter 91 to regulate public and commercial activities on Maunakea lands. And so I just want to highlight that our administrative rules are only for public and commercial activities. And it asked us to strive for consistency with the administrative rules of DOFA and the NARS, to consult with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and then to hold at least one public meeting on the island of Hawaii. Next slide.
So I want to just make one point here. So our Act 132 required us to develop rules specifically to address public and commercial activities. The authority, given their broader range of responsibility and jurisdiction and authority, their rules would have to cover much more than ours. So as an example, how they are actually going to lease lands. They have been granted the power to issue leases. They have to develop that whole process, and then their rules have to reflect how that would actually work. And there are other things like that because of their increased jurisdiction, their rules will be much broader than ours are.
Next slide. So I did a timeline for the administrative rules because it took so long and there were so many moving parts that I thought that this would probably be the easiest way to kind of highlight how long and the whole process it took to get to the rules and all of the different components that affected the rules, including, the Governor Ige's 10-point plan, and then Governor Ige asking us to hold on the rules, and then letting us move forward, and then layering in the protests, and the court cases.
So just to clarify, there is currently a court case that still is in process, questioning the constitutionality of our rules.
Yeah, but so it was a long process, 10 years. You know, there's a, like Roberta was saying, there was a lot that went into it. Next slide. So this is a little bit about the Hawaii Administrative Procedure Act requirements. It required 30 days notice for a public hearing, and we needed to afford all interested parties to have an opportunity to submit data, reviews, arguments, and oral or in writing. The rules were adopted by the Board of Regents in November 6, 2019. And then it was approved by the governor in January 13th, 2020, and then filed with the lieutenant governor and effective 10 days after. Next slide. The rules have five different subchapters, including purpose and definitions, public activities, which covered preservation of resources and general rules on activities, commercial activities, solicitation and general commercial activities, permits for public and commercial activities, for research permits, special permits, film permits, and administration and enforcement, which goes over violations, penalties, citations, and appeals, and fees in Exhibit A. Next slide. I wanted to give you a little snapshot of Exhibit A, which are the administrative fines. Fines, they depend on violation. So just kind of depending on what's going on, we're allowed to charge fines. Next slide. The easiest way to show you how the administrative rules are implemented on a day-to-day basis, I just wanted to give you a snapshot of how you can see that today. And next slide. And this is what I call my regulatory sign. It's posted at Halepohaku and at the Viz. And this follows similar to what you'll find at the state parks and the forest reserve areas. And it's a summary of all of the things that you are prohibited within the Maunakea lands under the administrative rules, such as no littering or dumping, no camping, no muddy vehicles, no drones, no smoking, etc. So this is what we call our regulatory sign. And this keeps Jesse happy. Next slide. And then what we decided to do is we have what we call educational signs, which have the rules woven into them. And so this is an example, and many of you, if you visited the Viz, these are out for visitors to read. But we've decided to take more of an educational approach with our rules. And so these signs can be found at the Viz. They have the infographics for those who don't read English. They also have the QR codes up in the right-hand corner, and these signs can be found in multiple languages, including, I think, French, Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, and all of that is found. You can go to the next slide. This is another slide, and again, it's about education, about how to drive, and it incorporates that no two-wheel drive vehicles past Halepohaku, and that's a part of our administrative rules. So again, trying to use more education rather than enforcement in our rules. Next slide. And again, this incorporates our administrative rules related to invasive species prevention. Again, more educational. Next slide. And this talks a little bit about the altars, or the ahus as we call them. Next slide. And about sacred sites, respect for our cultural sites. Again, this is the administrative rules written in a way that's more educational about not taking or removing stones or any objects from the ahus or any other places. And again, using infographics so folks who don't read English can understand as well. Next slide. This is more this one doesn't necessarily have any administrative rules, but more another educational slide about the climate and exposure risk. And next slide, the last one. And then again, this is about high elevation risks. And this does have a little bit of regarding high elevation and our recommendation that children under the age of 13 not go up to the summit. And that's it for administrative rules. Any questions?
So just to emphasize getting to timeline and sequencing. It's necessary for the authority to have their management plan in place first before they can develop their rules. Because the rules are really the enforcement arm of the, or piece of the management plan. So getting to the point of developing rules will come after that. So the conversation that we've been having is, would it make sense for the authority to adopt our master plan, our management plan, and our rules as a starting point, with the idea that would facilitate the transition, because we can't really discuss transitioning employees or assets or anything like that, because everything our folks do is in service to these plans and these rules. So until they have something in place, we can't, it doesn't make sense to transfer folks, nor does it make sense until we also address the issue that I know Bonnie is concerned about, and that's the ongoing liability of our existing permits and rules and obligations. So conversation is moving in the right direction, we believe, but we're not there yet. So I know that was a lot of material. I don't know if people want to take a breath and.
Well, I don't
So
know.
what you think?
Yeah, my comment is, based on prior meetings, it's been so frustrating. I mean, actually, I'm really encouraged by this report and, the effort. Well, I think Greg, you, Nahua, and everybody else on your team has been functioning and operating with the right frame of mind. And I think some of that probably has come into play as to, MPSOA and how are they going to move forward, because they will have to take what you have and then move forward. So at least if they do this one big step, it eliminates time, energy, money, and, I'm sorry, there's lack of time, but money and efforts to get to, where UH is after 30, 40 years of, of effort. So, so I'm very encouraged and hope, we can help move forward. And Shane, I'm really happy that, KKM is also interested in helping and moving forward as well, because, MKSOA has so much it needs to do. So anyway, I want to encourage Greg and Noah to keep this positive momentum moving forward, because there is no time left. You know, there's a lot more work that needs to be done that MK SOA needs to do. To get to where they need to be by 2028.
And this doesn't even cover the mechanics of the transfer
Oh,
of all
no.
the permits and agreements.
Exactly. But you can't even get there. You can't even talk about that until you have all of this in place. Which I think was the original conversation that, you know, we started when, you know, MK SOA was, or act, the act was passed and MK SOA was formed. It's just taken this much time for, you know, I think them to realize that,
No.
you know, a lot of effort was put in.
Yeah,
to
I
getting-
suspect that they realized late last year, that the quickest and most expedient means would be to adopt in part, if not in major sections, what Maunakea Management Board and CMS already has in place, and just modify those areas that needed to be modified.
Right.
Yeah, same thing with the permits, the CUPs and agreements, so that I'm happy to see that they're following through in that.
Yeah.
I should also say that, you know, that this recommendation is not just coming from us. The observatory directors are in discussions about recommending the same thing, adoption of our plans to get things started. Obviously, President Hansel wrote a letter basically saying very consistent things. So it's not just CMS, it's been sort of advocating it, but because we live and breathe this stuff every day, I think, know the advantages of going this route probably better than others.
Well, I
Also,
also
I
wanna.
think, sorry,
Shane.
Chair.
No, go ahead, Shane.
I just wanted to comment that I think from Kahuku Mauna's perspective, which is driven by a cultural foundation, is the continuity in stewardship and making sure that, you know, we're not just disrupting people's lives and industries on that's already existing on the Mauna. It's the stewardship itself that's already been in place, as we can see through Nahua's presentation. There's evidence that there has been a stewardship. Maybe it wasn't said in the language that they understand, or whoever is trying to understand it right now, but I think that we can also advocate for continuity as we go through this process. I mean, I hear, you know, like we want to be able to help, but I think the help is to make sure that the stewardship has a level, like we don't lose how we steward Mauna Kea, how it's managed right now. I think there's a way that we have to make sure that we would advise MK SOA. And when my opportunities are to discuss things with both John Komeji and John DeFries, when I do have that opportunity, I always stress the importance of continuity. Like, I get they need to transfer, I get they need to do all of these things, and perhaps they need to figure out some ways on how they don't need reinvent the wheel. It's gonna be around and stay around forever so that we can have a smooth ride. Hopefully that's what they're telling their board, the MK SOA board.
Yeah, I would just echo that. We don't want to create a gap in continuity. Because that would set everybody back.
It's gonna be detrimental to the Mauna if it does. Like, yeah, it's gonna cause a lot of problems, and it's gonna cause a lot of mishaps, because then all of everything that Nahua just went through with the CMPs, administrative rules, resource management, all of that stuff would have, if there was a gap in that process,
Mhm.
it's gonna wreak a lot of havoc on the Mauna, and it's gonna be chaotic.
Behind that plan too, and Shane, you raised a good point about continuity, because we have been recommending continuity with everything from the get-go. But the plan, what Nahua laid out is one thing, but the piece that's missing that really isn't visible in just that document itself is the fact the years of expertise that got put behind each component of that CMP, each component of the master plan. We brought in experts. We spent years drafting, redrafting, reviewing, reorganizing, again, bringing in experts when we were lacking of some expertise within our various committees and programs. And that's a huge component that is why it took that long to get there. 10 years, really, that was a drop in the bucket compared to what happened prior to that, even prior to that 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, some of us have been here for a very long time.
Yeah. And so the other thing I want to say is, I really commend Greg and Nahua, because I think the first thing that has to happen is trust between MKSOA and UH. And I get the sense from just discussing with Greg that, maybe that is happening, right? That they trust what has been done and can use it moving forward. But I think the biggest, the next huge hurdle is the legislature. Because in talking, with Greg, I mean, this session, none of the MKSOA members were even brought up for confirmation, which means they go into this interim approval. But if it's going to take, so do they have the authority, rulemaking authority now?
Yeah.
They do? Oh.
I asked that specifically.
Until next session. They serve in interim
Oh,
capacity.
but the MPSO itself, does the authority have rulemaking?
I believe so.
approval?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, it's written in their legislation. Yeah,
132 says that they can develop rules.
yeah,
So they already have that authorization.
Okay,
Yeah.
so once they approve this, the administrative rules can become their rules. So, but I still think, and I think many people do, that the act is flawed and it needs to be improved, but nothing has happened since it passed. You don't have Psyche there anymore. You had the Maui fires. I mean, so much has happened that MKSOA has been kind of shoved on the side. And, the reality is 2033 is literally around the corner. So what I'm hopeful is that if MKSOA and UA can work together to move forward, that will help make the legislative process easier too. I mean, I don't know, because there's so much change on the, legislative front. But, that's the next really big hurdle. So thank you for all the work, and Shane and Noelani and, our board members for hanging in there. But, I'm very hopeful, Greg, so thank you.
We are too, yeah. Obviously lots of work ahead of us, but the door is opening, so we have the opportunity. Anyway, that concludes our agenda items for tonight. I don't know if anybody feels a need to have to go into executive session.
I have a quick note about the agenda. I have that the next meeting is on June 10th. Is that a typo that I made?
Is that the first Wednesday?
No, it's the second Tuesday,
Okay, no.
but I don't know why I would have done that if, unless someone was unavailable and we decided to do it on the 10th instead.
Oh, yeah, let me see. Cause the first Tuesday is
Third.
June third.
Yeah,
It should be
I have
third.
it, I have it for the 3rd.
Same here.
So, yeah,
I have it as the 3rd on my calendar, but for some reason on the agenda, it says the 10th. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to confirm.
yeah,
The third.
thank you for bringing it up, cause I was gonna, if we weren't gonna have executive session, I would move into announcements.
Okay.
I don't see a need for executive
I
session.
don't have a need.
Okay.
I don't know, Julie, Billy,
No, I don't see a need for us to go into executive session.
Okay, then we move on to announcements. Do you have any announcements, Greg or Nahua?
actually, there is one announcement, it's something that we have briefed the observatory directors on, at our last observatory, directors meeting. I think I've mentioned it to this group before, but I can't remember, so let me just briefly summarize it. The Canada-France fuel tank decommissioning project has gone through all the steps and everything, and we got the approvals from the Office of Conservation of Coastal Lands for the permit for them to decommission that in place, that facility in place. However, one of the conditions they required of us was to go to DLNR Land Division, who actually oversees our lease, our general lease, or our 2 leases, and get them to sign off, since technically the state is the landowner. Now, this has never been done before, never been a requirement before. We have, as holders of the general lease, have been able to sign off on previous permit applications. So we were a bit confused. Nonetheless, we sought clarification and didn't get any clarification for months and months and months. All the while, Canada-France's permits, the timeline of their permits are ticking. So we were finally able to, and Land Division at DLNR has been going through some management changes on their own. We were finally able to get a meeting with the interim manager and the former manager and the Big Island Land Division manager a couple weeks ago. And it appeared to us in the meeting that even amongst the Land Division staff that were there wasn't necessarily consensus as to why Land Division needed to sign off on this thing. Nonetheless, we said, look, we just want to make sure we're complying with whatever you folks are going to require of us. So we've decided that we're going to move forward. They've asked us to submit the project proposal packet that Joy works on. We're making some amendments to it, submit it to Land Division so that they can review it. The additional kicker in all of this, however, is the Land Division, the former Land Division manager who was on this phone call noted that, oh, by the way, the Land Division administrator, him or herself, cannot sign off on this. This would actually have to go to the land board for an approval, which again makes no sense to us. However, that's what we were told. So I
Since
subsequently,
Yeah.
I don't know, Julie, it's all news to us. So I subsequently got a little bit more information about what's going on with the land division and their management changes. We're ready to submit this whole project packet to land division, but I'm setting up a separate conference call with the interim manager now to get some guidance on whether we really need to do this and does it really need to go to the land board. The complication with things going to the land board is that all of that then gets subject to additional, review and whatnot. Not that we don't think that we've answered all of the questions through our own review process with our committees and even MK-SOA. But it does, potentially put more delays into the equation. So we're working through that right now. I'll keep you folks apprised, but if they hold true to what they've told us thus far, then it appears every single permit application we submit is going to require land board approval, and that's just going to
That's crazy.
add a whole bunch of complication to the whole process. So yeah, Julie, we don't know since when.
I would, first question I would ask is, was there a amendment to the rules that triggered this? Because that's such a big one, because that would not just be just us. That would affect a lot of projects across the state.
What we were told is that there's no rule per se, but that this is the result of some, the department has been sued recently about other similar situations, is what we were told. So, keep you folks surprised.
Gotta love bureaucracy. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah.
Well, I'm concerned about the implications moving forward for everything else. that
Oh, absolutely.
we do.
Absolutely.
Not just us, but MK
Yeah,
SOA
yeah.
also.
I mean, even the projects we
every-
reviewed tonight,
Yeah.
this is all now gonna have to go to the
The
land
board,
board.
the land board.
So they can't take out their conduit until the land board approves it.
Gary, is there some way that process can be reviewed and maybe ask the LNR to reconsider?
Yeah, Greg's been keeping us surprised, so we'll work with him as best we can once he has his next round of consultations and hopefully get some clarification.
Wow. Yeah, the implications would be crazy.
Well, it just creates a huge bottleneck.
Yeah.
And not just for us, but for everybody.
The
Yeah.
whole state.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, please keep us posted.
Yeah, I will. I don't know how I neglected to include that in my report, but I thought that was important.
Yeah, very.
Okay, next meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 3rd at 5 p.m. Any other announcements? If not, it is now 6:59. I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and I appreciate everyone's efforts immensely. Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha. Thanks, Roberta. Aloha.